It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantatrax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine indeed. We're back once again with your weekly recap on all the Star Wars and Lucasfilm news from this past week. And what a week it's been, because we saw the launch of Ahsoka on Disney Plus, so we'll be chatting all about that. But what else is coming up on today's show? So first up, we're looking at Destination 23's got its live stream on the 9th of September. What might we see then? We'll also be checking out the ILM showcase, VFX from Star Wars Andor. We'll be casting our eyes back on 5 classic Lucasfilm games that are still available to play today, and checking out Gentle Giant's Gamorrean Guard minibus. Tony Gilroy's been speaking on the New York City Writers' Strike picket line. We'll be discussing all the latest to do with Writers' Strike and how it's impacting Star Wars. The Toy Foundation Chatterback Chopper is among the 2023 Toys of the Year award finalists. And last up, we'll be talking everything to do with Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2, just ahead of the 3rd episode coming out this week. So joining me to discuss that and much, much more from fantatrax.com, Greig Robertson, how are you?
Good, thanks. How's it going, Brian?
Really good, really good. Ahsoka then. Let's just start the show with just a quick feeling you had on the show. It's launched this week on Disney Plus. Your general overall feelings from the launch?
I absolutely loved it. But huge fan of the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. So like live action Star Wars Rebels for me is gold. Absolutely loved it. Can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I struggled a little bit because obviously it's so hugely tied into animation. But second and third watches, I think, really kind of worked a lot better for me. I think first time round it was like, I need to be on Wikipedia here a little bit to figure out some bits and pieces. But second and third times round, really enjoyed it. Beautifully made, I think. So
absolutely. I had a couple of friends who aren't big Star Wars fans, but don't watch the animated stuff, and they were kind of the feeling they could have done with some sort of explanation to who these people were up the front of the show. But hey ho.
Yeah. It's we've all got a chance to move forward with these characters now anyway. I think now the first couple of establishing episodes are out of the way, and we can enjoy what's to come, I think.
Absolutely.
Desert Planet Discs, always happening on Fantatrax Radio. What's happening on the show, on the latest shows that's out there?
Ooh. So last episode, we were having a little chat about what we expected to come from Ahsoka. Talking about the brand new Roosevelt shirts were coming out, or had just come out. They were obviously shown at San Diego Comic-Con. Wearing one of them now.
Yeah, me too. I've got the tattoo one on.
Summer snips. It would obviously talking about some of the things we've been up to over the summer and conventions coming up that we're hoping to attend, and obviously playing all the latest music we find out there. Star Wars themed parodies, original songs, covers of the classic themes. So if anyone's got any Star Wars themed songs they would like us to play on the show, you can get in touch at show at fantatrax.com, I believe, is the email address.
Or I think it's radio at fantatrax.com.
Radio, that's the one.
Go with that one. That one definitely gets through. I might create a show just in case. But yeah, Mr. Newbold there's added the latest episode into the comments, so everyone wants to check that out. There's a link right there for them. Meanwhile, let's get stuck into the news. And first up, we're talking Destination D23. Live stream's coming on the 9th of September. Kind of an odd year in that we've obviously got the writer's strike going on at the moment, and the actor's strike as well. That it's going to be a different kind of D23 because we've kind of historically had big announcements, whether it be film or TV, kind of attached into D23. They're going to have to do things slightly different. Are you kind of expecting them to make a big announcement, or do you think they're going to kind of hold things off until stormy waters are calmer?
Yeah, I think you might get some more park announcements than anything TV and film related at the moment. Certainly, with the way things are going, there doesn't seem to be any sign of that stopping. The strike stopping anytime soon. So I think there'll be a lot more content around theme parks and merchandise as opposed to new projects.
And I think, to be fair, I think a lot of fans would quite like them to focus a little bit more on the parks. There's kind of been a lot of criticism over changes in the parks and the way that things operate and are run in the last few years. And I think we might see some unwinding of some policies that have changed. And it'd be interesting to see where the focus is for the parks going forward, because Bob Chapek obviously came from the parks to be CEO, no longer there. Bob Iger's back in charge. Will Bob Iger undo some of the changes the prior Bob implemented?
Oh, good chance, I think.
Yeah. Mr. Newbold there in the chat, he's thinking as well, not so much in terms of TV and film. I wonder if we'll maybe see announcements around perhaps Disney characters and products related to Disney characters, that can link back directly to the parks, and it may be a case of things that we consider more the sort of film franchises like Star Wars and Marvel kind of takes a back seat this time around.
Yeah, get more, I guess, classic characters. I guess with it being the Disney 100 celebration as well, there'll be a lot of focus on that and maybe the history and things they might be doing to preserve some of that historical artifacts and film and animation from the past. It's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to D23?
I haven't. It's kind of been on my bucket list, and especially as it's kind of evolved over the last few D23s, where it's become much more of a huge, wider TV and film kind of thing. And I've never been a huge Disney guy. I was kind of worried when they bought Star Wars, because I'm not into the sort of sugar-coated kind of things that kind of, if you've ever seen me, I've been to a few Disney parks. If you've ever been to a Disney park with me, you can see how much it really grates on me. It's too sugar-coated. Can't cope with it. Can't cope with the happiness. Right? I just want someone to be rude to me when I'm being served food, So like, I always thought like D23 would be my kind of like my worst nightmare. But it's kind of evolved in recent years with more TV and film kind of thing. I think it's kind of gotten onto the bucket list of events I need to attend. So obviously this year's out of the equation, but I think in future years it's definitely going to be one where I'm going to want to be at, I think.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's one I'd love to go to, obviously for the Star Wars content, but also family are all big Disney heads and Marvel and love to go. I think what you were saying there, I was just imagining like a Karen's Diner style.
That's like my ideal kind of place. If they had that at Disney World, I'd be happy. It would be like a decompression zone, But that's to be fair, it is not just a Disneyland thing. It's the whole American culture, because it's all about tipping in America, which not really such a thing in Europe. Your waiting staff can be rude to you in this country, and it doesn't make much difference as to what they're getting as a tip, I think. So it's much more American concept, I think. Probably the only person that complains about good service. Jack mentioned in the comments there, I wonder if they announce any cancellations or even setbacks. I kind of think it's probably the opportune kind of moment to just let that news slide out, because there's very little in terms of commentary that actors and writers and people involved in the projects can kind of give. The project's being kind of canned at this point in time, really, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I mean, Warner Brothers, I think that this last few days have announced that a few of their big projects have been pushed back. So, it'd be the right time to do it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Next up on the news front, we have ILM showcasing the VFX for Star Wars Andor. There's been a few articles. If you head over to fantatracks.com, you'll see them all. But ILM have been pushing a lot of the work that they've been doing on Andor, and we can kind of check out one of them just now whilst we talk about it. But yeah, it was a peak kind of Star Wars TV for me. Andor, it just kind of hit all the right notes, and ILM are kind of been celebrating it the last while. We're kind of into award season, so it's the ideal time to get it into people's mindsets, I believe, and they've been putting out these nice little features on social media as to the layering and effects that went into creating some of these worlds. And it's fascinating to see the actual detail, because quite often you don't give it too much thought. Like there we've got, scenes set in London, and you can kind of see the difference between what was actually shot and what happened post-edit. And it's pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, it's incredible work they do. I mean, and having been to that part of London around celebration time, and to visit the locations has been great. But seeing all the work that's been done to bring it to life as Coruscant, different parts of Coruscant, has been incredible.
Yeah,
and obviously we're blessed to be living up in the north, in Scotland in the north, so a couple of locations we can visit from Andor as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And Mr. Newbold also pointing out there, June 2's back to March 24 as well. So yeah, we're starting to see some negative elements coming as well. And Mark also feeling there that Andor so concrete and weighty, hugely impressed to see this kind of work. Yeah. And it shows you the perfect balance as well. I think fans, we've been talking a lot about work in the volume and work shot in real world locations, and it shows you, even in a real world location, the amount of work that's involved in finalising that shot for airing. And as you say, I've been to, and we both went to the dam from
Crooked.
Andor season 1, yeah, and
Aldani,
yeah. And just things like that, just little elements, and you can see the layer of work that's been involved. So ILM, definitely a good contender, I would say, for an award this season. And,
absolutely. I think walk away with a few, I think, this year.
Yeah. Mr. Naylor also making a pretty good comment when it comes to Andor. We're likely to see a budget again for Star Wars TV. Very true. And that's just when they have to get clever. It's going back to, I guess, the old adage that George Lucas had to say, that some things just weren't available for him. They want to make the Star Wars 1313, I think was our working title for it, TV series, but they just couldn't figure out a way to make that happen for the kind of budget it would have to be. And the volumes obviously solved a big part of that. But I think even Dave Filoni said this week when it came to his movie that you have to strike the right balance of when to use the volume and when not to, and he kind of feels that he's kind of learnt that. So he would use it in his film if he thought it was of benefit, but again, wouldn't use it if he didn't think it was.
Yeah, I mean, the Lucas project was Star Wars Underworld, wasn't it? I think 1313 was the
1313
video game.
Video game, yeah. And I'm thinking that because that's the next news story. Yeah, Star Wars Underworld, that's true. Very true. So let's jump into that next news story whilst games are in my mind. Lucasfilm keen to point out this past week as well about sort of 5 of their classic games that are still available to play today. And I'm a big thing into sort of vintage gaming. I've kind of built my own sort of vintage game little machine. I've got loads of ROMs on there, vintage Star Wars games and just vintage games in general. I'm going to sort of bring that to Fantatrax very soon. I'm going to start a gaming Thursday night gaming night, I think, and play some vintage Star Wars arcade games and Dark Forces and the like. Bring back the proper Star Wars gaming. And Lucasfilm selling the fact that they're still working on a lot of these games, bringing them to more modern platforms and that as well, and or making them compatible for today's machines. And is there a sort of game from Lucasfilm that from Lucasfilm's history that kind of always worked for you? Excuse me whilst I sneeze.
Bless you, sir. Bless you.
Bless me.
The one obviously there's a few mentioned in that article, and the one I haven't played is the Indiana Jones one, which I'd love to play.
Yeah.
In terms of classic, the Monkey Island games for sure
Yeah.
were just absolutely hooked on those back in the day. So I don't think there's any available as yet for the PS5, but when they do release them, I'll definitely be playing those. And I do have Grim Fandango. I haven't got around to playing it yet. So that's another game I never played back in the day. But though Star Wars wise, obviously they announced Dark Forces coming soon. I'll definitely be playing that one again because I loved that.
Yeah.
Was it the Jedi Knight game with
Yeah.
Kyle Katarn?
Yeah. And you've got Knights of the Old Republic. It's supposed to be getting worked on a new one for that. Although there's always rumours that it's not progressing as perhaps people are wanting. So we'll wait and see on that one. I think. Let's check out some product as well. We've got some new releases as well from Gentle Giant this week. From the Disney Plus TV show, The Book of Boba Fett, comes a Gamorrean Guard minibust, shipping all around the world, and limit to 1,000 units. So, as Mr. Newbold put in the article, this is one piece of prime pork you need to get into your collections, which I had to include as pun because I'm sure he was immensely proud of that one. Well, wait, you'll be in the comments in just 2 seconds. Yeah.
Feeling a bit gammy.
Yeah, I love the Gamorrean Guards. I love the Gamorrean Guards, and it was one of the highlights, I think, of the Book of Boba Fett, was seeing them back on the screen. And it was a show I kind of struggled with a little bit, the Book of Boba Fett. Not the direction I would have went with the character, I think. But I actually enjoyed the Tusken Raider element of it. And I kind of enjoyed the elements around Jabba's palace as well. And so it had elements that worked. But the Gamorrean Guard was my favourite. Gentle Giant, of course, always do incredible stuff as well.
Yeah, the detail on that looks incredible. So quite happily add that to the collection.
Yeah. Just going back to the game in there, Anakin making the comment, never played Dark Forces and he can't wait. I think that's the huge benefit of bringing some of these games back, is that people have heard so much about them, people's passion for them, and a lot of people never had the chance to play them. I'm just thinking TIE Fighter X-Wing as well. Another great game.
That's the thing I've been enjoying, is introducing my my eldest Elliot, who's he's a huge Star Wars fan. So introducing him to some of those older Star Wars games that I grew up playing. Like there's a few came out, I guess a couple of years ago. You had like Bounty Hunter and the Pod Racer game. I got remastered a bit and released for PS5 and PS4. So he's played a little bit of those, but Dark Force is going to be incredible. Can't wait for that.
Yeah.
And the older Battlefront games will be great. The ones, obviously, the old versions before.
Mr. Newbold throwing one out there, the Pod Racer game as well.
Yeah,
I even like the Phantom Menace game, which I know got lots of hate at the time, but I kind of liked it as kind of like a rolling kind of platformer type game. Kind of worked for me. And I actually thought Jar Jar wasn't so bad in the game, but there we go. Next bit of news, the writer strike. We've kind of touched a little bit on the strike already in terms of the impact it's kind of having. Tony Gilroy was on the New York City writer strike picket line, very impassioned in what he had to say, and obviously he was someone that was getting criticised through some unfair news, I think, at the start of the strike, claiming that he'd been working when he shouldn't have been, when he was in fact meeting all the rules of the strike, and wasn't involved in Andor and stepped away. He was talking very passionately about the issues with the strike, and I think a lot of it, the real core elements of the dispute are kind of getting lost a little bit, in terms of people think it's all just about money and all just about residuals, but there's a lot more complications to it in terms of writing rooms, when people are employed, when people are getting released, and really, people signing up to be part of a show and then getting released, very early in the production of that show, and that's been difficult for them to pick up another project, and it all boils back to, and we've mentioned it on this show before, about cutting series down from 22 episodes down to 6 episodes or 8 episodes. So you've 8-9 months work of the year is now reduced to 3 months if you're lucky. And it was quite an impassioned speech that Tony Gilroy gave, and it kind of exemplifies it. It kind of feels that this strike's going to run for quite some time.
Yeah, that's exactly the feeling I had watching it. And it was nice. It harked back. The first part of the speech he was talking about, his dad was in the same position, striking back in the 60s when he was only 4 years old. And one thing Tony Gilroy's incredible at is writing good speeches. Andor's a testament to that. Some of the speeches in that are just incredible. But I could see this rolling on for quite a while. I don't think it's not going to end this year. I don't think, for sure. Into 2024, I think, before things might start moving. But it was brilliant just to hear the very end, the last part of the speech before he stopped was one way out.
I guess for me, looking at it, the big problem with the writer's strike is it's come at a time when the studios are not doing well. So when it comes to the money element, it's not huge sums of money individually when you go through what it would cost each individual studio. It's not huge sums of money that they're looking for. But the problem is, you're looking at studios that are losing revenue, losing profits, losing shareholder value. And so you're not inclined to give any kind of increase when you're in that kind of situation. And all these studios were looking to cut costs as it was. So in a kind of bizarre kind of way, everyone being on strike and the production's getting shut down are actually saving the studios money and probably preventing them having to make cuts that they otherwise would have had to have made. And I can actually see it happening on the reverse of this, where a lot of shows don't come back, and the studios just decide, no, we've done it. You've done your 4 series. That's it. We're not bringing you back for a 5th series and things like that. And we kind of saw that a little bit the last time there was a strike, and so it kind of feels that there could be a death knell a little bit for a lot of productions here, on like a wicked tail end. The strike's going to be over, and then all of a sudden people are going to be losing jobs that they kind of maybe thought they were going to be going back to. It kind of just feels it's going to have that kind of vicious whip on the end of it, I think.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen, but that'll be horrendous, I think, isn't it? So.
Yeah. I think it's also going to be difficult to make sure that the writers and the actors are kind of aligned, because you can settle with the writers. If the actors are still on strike, then nothing's going to move forward. And really you're putting the writers in the same position that the joiners, the electricians, the catering people, and all the ancillary services around TV and film are in at the moment, where they're not earning money and they're not going to benefit one bit from the strike either.
Yeah.
So, it's not a good situation. And based on the comments from the studios, I think there was some comments that came out from the opposite side that kind of put out a letter as to how the most recent talks have kind of gone. It doesn't feel like they're in a conciliatory kind of mood either. So I think you're probably right. It's going to drag into tail end of the year, if not into next year.
Yeah, definitely.
Looking ahead, something a little bit more lighthearted and fun. Because we're approaching what I call Christmas season, because from September is when everyone starts pushing out their catalogues. And if you work in retail like me, you start getting the catalogues in April. So you're not finished Easter and people are wanting you to place orders for Christmas. And the Toy Foundation has put out their 2023 Toy of the Year Award finalists. And one of the figures, or one of the toys even, that's in that group of finalists is from Hasbro, and it's the Charback Chopper animatronic toy, which Panther Tracks has been very lucky to get one. And Mr. Matt Booker has been reviewing it for us and taking it on a little adventure. So keep your eyes out on Panther Tracks TV for that being released in the short time. Not entirely sure when the embargo is going to end on that one, but it'll be released very soon. But Chatterback Chopper, one of the highlights for Christmas. Has there been is that toy take your fancy, or has there been another Star Wars toy that's come out this year that you would push forward for finalists as a must-have buy for Christmas?
Ooh. I know, I know. I would say, but it's not going to be something. It will be arriving for Christmas this year. But I would love the Ghost, the Hasbro Ghost for sure. But no, that looks excellent. I hadn't realised they'd shown it off at Celebration. I totally missed that at Celebration. But I'm a bit behind the times. I did pick up Leia's droid from
Oh yes,
Lola.
That's the one.
I've got one of them tucked away for one of the kids who are sleeping just down the hall. So, but yeah, I would love a Chopper because he's just incredible. He's one of the best droids in Star Wars, and voiced by Dave Filoni. What more can you ask for?
I'm going to put up Mr. Naylor's comment on the screen, but I don't think I'm going to read it because I might burst out laughing when I read it. But it's there. Everyone can feel the agony. But yeah, we'll leave it at that. But yeah, I think Lola was like a really inventive kind of creation as well. A little bit when people see this video from Matt, it's a lot of fun, Chopper, and had a lot of fun editing it together. And but yeah, Lola's kind of in that same kind of vibe where it's just a lot of fun. And yeah, so definitely I could include that one in the race for Christmas. We'll need to have an awards this year. We'll have to get people to vote on various topics. We'll have a finale at Christmas time. Mr. Newbold has gone to correct us all. It's Lola. You know, keep it right as Mr. Newbold. Yeah. Lola.
Some of the other toys in that list look quite interesting as well, though. There's a Spawn toy in there, and Goo Jitsu or something.
Yeah, let's bring his list back up. Yeah, there's some of them. Some of them I actually Googled to see what some of them were. I was surprised to see Jurassic Park doing so well in it.
Yeah.
Pokemon, not surprised. Ninja Turtles, obviously, just coming back out in the cinema. And so Heroes of Goo Jitsu, Deep Goo, Sea, Triple Goo King, Hydra. It's quite a mouthful.
How many goos can you get in one sentence?
That's impressive.
Crazy.
Mr. Newbold we've got a title for it already. Here we go, the Fantha Christmas Awards. We're going to run with that idea. We're going to run with it. We'll come up with something. Don't know how we'll do it, but we're going to get viewers to vote. Next up in the news front, big news of the week. Ahsoka, episodes 1 and 2 out on Disney Plus, and with episode 3 coming midweek, so we got them a day early. They came out on Tuesday, hard on the back of sort of the UK sort of red carpet premiere, and I think Europe had theirs at the end of the previous week, in America the middle of last week as well, around about the 17th, I think. So 10 days ago. So it's been a big build up, although I think it's been a successful build up to it, even without the cast and writers being able to be part of that, which is kind of a real shame, I think, for them not being able to sort of celebrate in the work that they've created. But hopefully they'll get an occasion, whether the strike resolves itself so incredibly fast and it's resolved before the series ends, or at some point after it, hopefully leading up to a series 2, hopefully. I think it's not yet confirmed, but hopefully everybody's kind of hoping for that. And so Ahsoka became a huge part of this week. So I'll start by just let's gather our thoughts. Leading up to it, I was a bit concerned on the basis that I don't watch the animation. Ahsoka as a character didn't mean that much to me. I had a general gist of major elements of her storyline, because she obviously props up in various magazines and books and comics and so on. But not a clear idea of her storyline. But yourself, big fan of the Clone Wars and Rebels?
Yeah, big fan. Went to see the Clone Wars movie on my honeymoon back in, what was that, 2007? Was it? It was the New York premiere of that, and I think initially nobody was too sure about Ahsoka off the back of that first movie and the first few episodes, but the character over the last 2008. Thanks, Mark. 2008. That's when I got married. Yeah, well done. 15th anniversary this year. Anywho, 2008. We saw the movie on the East Coast premiere. But the character since then, since that first movie, over the 7 seasons of Clone Wars and Rebels, and as you mentioned in comics and books, and just incredible character. Rosario Dawson is doing a great job of bringing her to life in live action. So yeah, I had the benefit of knowing the whole sort of backstories and the characters, the Rebels characters, obviously have come into the show. Hera being one of my favourite characters in Star Wars in general. I think she's great. Mary Elizabeth, it's going to take a while, I think, to grow on me as the character. Whereas, I can't remember her name, sorry, but the actress who played Sabine, I thought was really good as Sabine. First 2 episodes, loving it so far.
Mr. Newbird in the comments gave me stick for being the only person to say to Mr. Flynn I don't watch cartoons. Not strictly true. I told him I watched the Gummy Bears. Just didn't watch any of the Star Wars stuff, and it wasn't a critique on his work, just not something that that had gathered my attention. I don't think I've always struggled with anything animated, and despite being a comics collector, I suppose there's a kind of synergy there. But yeah, it's just not something I've ever bought, and a lot of it's to do with, I guess, availability. Don't have kids, so I didn't have Disney Channel or Disney Plus Junior or whatever it was called at the time. Disney Junior Plus, I think it was on. Mr. Naylor there making a comment. He's seen both episodes 4 times. And no wonder Ahsoka's been touted as a central character of Star Wars going forward. And also Gummy Bears do rock. Although Gummy Bears send a terrible message about taking drugs to enhance your abilities at sports. Watch that program, but I don't know if I do buy into this idea that Ahsoka is going to be the central character for Star Wars going forward, because she didn't feel like the central character to the first 2 episodes. It felt very much like a Sabine show. And I kind of was a little bit more enjoyed sort of the dark side characters, if I'm being perfectly honest as well. I'm not sure. I don't know if that was a conscious decision or not, whether to take the focus a bit away from Ahsoka, because there's obviously a huge pressure, I think, on Rosario Dawson going in to this, that she's kind of got to live up to the very much loved animated character.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm with you there. I think the new Darkseid characters they introduced were brilliant, especially Ree Stevenson. It's very sad he passed away and won't get to see the love and the final product for the show. But he was incredible in it. First 2 episodes, so I'm looking forward to see where that goes in the show. And thanks, Mark. Natasha Lou Bordizzo is the actress who plays Sabine. She was fantastic in it, I felt, and the end of the episode 2, where they kind of, it was almost shot for shot from Star Wars Rebels final episode, was stunning as well. So
let's start right at the start of the episode 1, and something that's become seemingly quite controversial on Star Wars social media was this opening crawl, which we can kind of see here. I do have issues with it not being fully justified. And it being put to left. A lot of people not happy with it. It was like a straightforward crawl and not a crawl into the distance. Did it bother you?
Not at all.
No.
I actually really liked it. I mean, they did this for was it Solo that had like a bit of a type of crawl, but it didn't bother me. No, in fact, I really liked the fact that it had a crawl, but not a crawl at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be the same without the classic main theme. I think that's
I did have issues with the introduction. I didn't think it was a brilliant way to bring people that haven't followed the animated stuff up to date with who the characters were. And I've weirdly been watching the Harry Potter films of late, which I've never watched Harry Potter stuff. And I'm not sure it's about the 7th or 8th film. They have like the animated sequence where they're sort of telling the story of the Elder Wand. I can't remember my stuff. And I'm hooked. I'm now hooked on Harry Potter. I'm obsessed with the fact that they spend so much time in the girls' toilets. So that's the bit I don't understand. It's like in every film. But other than that, like, so the animated element I thought was really beautifully done in Harry Potter, and it kind of told quite a complicated story very quickly and very concisely. And I kind of thought there should have been like an animated start to the series, and I would have had the original voice talent. It might have just been a new animation, even not even necessarily clips from the actual show, but just an explainer of who all these characters are, what their connections were, and the sort of key events leading up to this. And I kind of think that would have worked better than a crawl.
Yeah, it'd been interesting if they'd done something like that, put out in Disney Plus beforehand. I don't think. I don't know. I would like to have seen something like that for people who, like yourself, who hadn't really watched all the animated stuff. Because I mentioned at the start of the show that one of my pals who loves Star Wars but doesn't watch the animated stuff as well, and he was like, "Who are these people? Who's this Sabine? You know, why are they not introducing these people?"
Yeah. We kind of got the show kicked off with a rebel freighter being told that there was a Jedi craft approaching, which kind of shocked them because obviously we're in the era post Order 66. There's not many Jedi left, and we kind of got introduced to. Well, we're going to call them baddies, although are they baddies or are they just heavily misunderstood? They're abandoned Jedi and his apprentice, I think, and he's kind of aligned himself a little bit with who makes most sense for him, I think, going forward. I guess technically Balin still being aligned with the Empire would have him still acting per the original orders of the Jedi Temple, because the Jedi Temple was aligned with the government at the time, which was Palpatine. That's my argument. But he kind of still refers to himself as a Jedi. They still kind of have Jedi traits. His apprentice Shin has a Padawan braid, and little elements like that. And what was kind of your take on our we'll call them the baddies of the show? Because I kind of really dug them.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Their introduction. I thought this scene in particular, looking at the screen now, was very reminiscent of the end of Rogue One with Vader going down the hallway, mincing people left and right with lightsabers and chokes. Ray Stevenson's just got such a cool voice. I think he's going to be incredible on the show, and excited to see where it's going to go.
Yeah. Just his whole build, he just carries himself so beautifully on the screen, I think, as well. And
the other thing I loved was, I don't think it had been mentioned in Mando season 2 that now my brain's not working today. Diana Lee Inosato's character is a Night Sister, which I don't think was hadn't been mentioned in season 2 of Mando, so that's a cool touch as well.
Yeah,
bringing them into live action.
I kind of took this frame because this was freeing Morgan Elspeth.
That's it.
Yeah, Morgan Elspeth from her sort of prison on board the craft, and this was kind of the intention, was to board the rebel craft. I'm calling them rebels, the New Republic craft, in order to free her. And I kind of took this frame purely because I thought he looked so Vader shaped in this, and I thought it was just a great look. And Morgan Elspeth, as you said, coming from Mando, kind of needed a little bit of an explainer. I kind of felt maybe a little bit more than she did. But yeah, I thought it was a great way to introduce them. And I think John here in the comments had mentioned earlier the kind of like grey Jedi. I think that's probably the perfect kind of place to pitch them. I'm still confused by them, what their motivations are, what's happened to them. And a lot of people have been posting the video of Yoda in Return of the Jedi calling Luke the last Jedi, and then obviously we've got all these Jedi all of a sudden in post Return of the Jedi content. I don't really have too big an issue with that. If the characters are good and the stories are good, and I kind of feel like they're developing a really potentially interesting storyline for Balin, and I hope it does get kind of fully told in the first season, because obviously we've lost Rey, which is tragic, because everything we've seen so far from him has been pure magical, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely outstanding.
Then we got the switch over to our hero character in Ahsoka, hunting down the map to try and find Ezra, or is she really more obsessed with Thrawn? This was kind of the take. I didn't really know where to place it, not having seen the animated stuff. Was what's her kind of goal? Because I kind of got, it was quite clear Sabine's all about finding and saving Ezra. I kind of felt, and I don't know if it's true, that Ahsoka was maybe more interested in hunting down Thrawn.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. And from the animated stuff, I think that's the way. Sabine's very much one to find Ezra, and obviously off the back of Mando season 2, Ahsoka's very much wanting to find Thrawn and put an end to any potential Empire rising again.
Yeah.
I love this scene. My teenager was like complaining about the fact, oh, this is the point in the games where we have to solve a puzzle. Which made me laugh.
I kind of dig this from, and it's something that's been like a motive. It's been in a lot of the Disney era Star Wars stuff, is looking at the Star Wars sort of place in history in terms of, we've got Dr. Aphra as kind of archaeologist. We've had Jeddah, Jedi temples in the Mandalorian, and I'm guessing it's a Night Sisters temple here, which is hiding the marker that's going to help them find Thrawn, find Ezra. Didn't think it was the most complicated puzzle she had to solve. I would have maybe had like a more clever kind of thing, because it kind of felt really easy, just turn the sort of dials at the top. But I'm agreeing with Becca here. It had very much like an indie vibe to it, and I kind of thought if you were ever going to bring Dr. Aphra into live action, here was your opportunity. This kind of setting, and it wouldn't have surprised me if they could have done that.
It's got to happen at some point, isn't it?
Yeah, Mr. Newbold literally just saying what I just said as well. The perfect timing. Mine's matching. And she solves a little puzzle, and she recovers the map, which is a game you can actually buy. There's links. Look for it on all the lore. I think on TikTok he'll give you the link. You can actually buy it. It's like a Rubik's kind of cube, but obviously in a ball. It costs you about 20 quid. Bargain. Just pay the gold and you're sorted. Your own perfect little prop. Ahsoka leaving the temple, encounters more droids. We hate droids. With the very cool kind of sticks we kind of saw on General Grievous's assistants back in
the Magna droids.
Yes, manga droids, yeah. But she kind of deals with them pretty swiftly. Dual lightsabers and full flow and full action. And I pulled this shot because I thought it was a one shot in the whole episode that just didn't work. I don't know if the special effects in this one just didn't work for me. That's a great comment as well from John. I thought the apple from Assassin's Creed. I thought that too when I saw it the first time. And Becca as well saying she loves the inflection of her voice when she says us as well. Yeah. But yeah, Ahsoka, she recovers the map. She makes swift work of these guys, and the kind of whole place kind of goes into a whole self-destruct, but she manages to get away just in time. And we get introduced to a droid that I actually enjoyed.
Wow.
Wow, yeah. A big statement. David Tennant obviously supplying the voice, and this is another crossover from the animated series as well.
I was going to ask, is it because he's Scottish?
It could well be. I just thought, he took on quite a main role through the first two episodes. I don't know, they haven't really used David Tennant in a lot of the promotions, and I thought they could quite easily do that based on the prominence he had in it. But it just felt like he was perfectly used in every scene in terms of he was serving a really full role, and a role that you would kind of expect for that type of droid. He didn't feel like he was sandwiched in any kind of scene, and it kind of worked really quite well.
I think this is very much forward thinking from Lucasfilm. Introduce him in a bigger way in Ahsoka. Because of the age of him, he's meant to be 25,000-year-old droid, which obviously takes it right back to the beginning of the movie was being written by James Mangold, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
His film is the older one.
I do wonder if he could also pop up in the Acolyte as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Right sort of time period, isn't it? So the early part of his droid life.
Yep. And as Mr. Newbold points out, he is also the current Doctor. So might find a TARDIS just sitting in the background somewhere. We did have kind of a scene, and I don't know how this plays out. Again, I don't know how this plays out in the animation, but kind of to me, it kind of felt odd. I was always under the impression in the animation that the fact that Ahsoka was alive and any kind of element of the rebellion was kind of a secret. But clearly I was completely wrong, because she just flies straight into the sort of New Republic kind of flagship craft there and meets her comrade from the animation in Hera. And they discuss who these Jedi that have been attacking the New Republic potentially could be. Hera kind of got a little bit of criticism. People weren't quite sure that the actress kind of met the role. What was your kind of thoughts on that?
I think it's too early to tell. There was I wasn't in the way that I was with Sabine. I wasn't initially taken straight away. I think I'll give it a chance, see how it goes. But I thought, in the same way, obviously, people were upset when Rosario was cast as Ahsoka, and feeling it should be Ashley playing the part. I don't think I've just got Vanessa Marshall so much tied with Hera, so I find I've found it tricky watching to start with, but I think she'll definitely grow on me. She's a great actress. Obviously, Mrs. McGregor nowadays, but I think I definitely think she'll grow on me in the part as the show goes on.
Yeah. I kind of recognised a lot of Lothal because I'd seen the sort of a few premiere episodes at various celebrations of Rebels. So I was a lot more familiar with the surroundings when they got to Lothal. And I'd obviously seen the sort of art piece, which, as I understand, has significance towards the end of Rebels. It was on display at Celebration in London, so I was kind of familiar with that as well. So I kind of enjoyed it, the way they introduced it into the series as kind of an anniversary, kind of landmark, kind of tribute. And I guess it also sort of set the scene as well, and it allowed you to set the scene that Sabine's a little bit of a rebel by nature as well as by name, as well. So I kind of felt that was kind of the scene we kind of maybe needed for other characters, where you kind of had a little element of an explainer that kind of rounded out the characters at the same point.
Mm-hmm. And it's great to see Clancy Brown. He obviously voiced this character in the Rebels cartoon series, and seeing him portray him in live action was really cool.
Yeah. And that's aforementioned Sabine. I didn't understand the obsession with the cats. my sheer thought was that a shotgun would have took them out. It would have stopped them urinating in the grass, because that's going to ruin your crops. But but I guess that's not going to go down well. But yeah, again, with Sabine, they did a lot more work, I think, in establishing her character than they did with Ahsoka. And you got introduced to the whole concept of Ezra and her. I don't know is it fair to call it love? Was it a love kind of relationship? It's more a friendship kind of relationship.
I would say it's more of like a brother sister relationship almost.
Yeah. It kind of established that was her focus. Her focus is Ezra.
Yeah.
Certainly over Thrawn, which I kind of got the feeling that was more Ahsoka's kind of will. And so I thought it was a kind of good way to introduce Sabine. I kind of thought they did the character good justice in the way that they introduced her. And but yeah, we then flip back to, we'll call them our dark side characters, I guess. And again, I kind of felt that they kind of were establishing these guys well. Morgan meeting up with them as they're all kind of hunting down what's happened to the map. Kind of, they're all chasing the same map as Ahsoka. So now they're hot in the case of Ahsoka, and Ahsoka's headed to Lothal, where she catches up with Sabine. Kind of frosty, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, there was a bit of training there with like a Padawan master scenario at some point, and obviously parted in a bad way at some point.
Yeah.
So,
Mr.
Yes.
Newball's computing with Mr. Taylor now for in the comments stakes. He's going, not the classic Star Wars brother sister relationship, though purely platonic. Dear.
I'm loving Paul Naylor's suggestion. I might have to do that.
The Cures Love Cats for a Love Cats track.
Yeah,
Fits quite well.
fits too well. Yeah. Consider it done, Paul Naylor.
And Sabine takes up the challenge from Ahsoka of deciphering the map. Sabine, obviously an artist, and Ahsoka's thinking that talents might come in handy in finding out what all this map business is. And she gets back on board. I think this is a ghost. Am I right in saying this is a ghost? Or is it, there's two of them, is it? The ghost, is it the ghost and the phantom? Someone will keep me right in the comments. But
I think this was just Ahsoka's ship at this point.
Was it? Okay. But yeah, it's somewhere that she'd obviously been before, because she was kind of checking out the kind of sleeping arrangements, and there was kind of sketches on the wall.
Oh, no, it was definitely the ghost then. If it's
right, okay, yeah.
Right.
And this is kind of where she's kind of starts the work on trying to learning about clues to decipher.
There we go.
Mr. Newball's correctness there. Keep us right. 1974 shuttle, Ahsoka's T6. 1974 was the year that Mr. Filoni was born, I believe.
Coming soon to Start Your Engines, Ahsoka's T6 1974 shuttle.
Yeah. People will be enjoying the fact I'm stumbling through my lack of knowledge here on the animation, but I'm getting there. Yeah, Mr. It's Filoni's birth year. There we go. He's getting old. Time he made himself some movies.
Yeah.
And the Hub, what I thought was kind of the highlight for me of the first two episodes, because this was when you kind of felt like you were really started to get to know a little bit more about the characters, and they bounced off each other really well. And I thought both actresses worked really well in this scene, and kind of David Tennant kind of helped that element as well. He took Ahsoka to one side and did like a little, as I understand it, perfect example of what his past was. And this is why I go on about droids actually serving their purpose. He was a lightsaber teacher at the Jedi Temple, and so he did an exercise where he examined the lightsabers from the video footage they had of Baylan and Shin, and trying to identify what Jedi they could be. So I thought, again, perfect use of a droid. Filoni was kind of nailing it all over. Yeah, and John pointing out, yeah, it was Sabine from when she was a Padawan. It would have been her bunk. That's kind of where I'm getting mixed up then.
Yeah.
Rebecca asking, what are they drinking? Mr. Newbuild saying calf. I'm thinking it's probably something stronger because the nerves and the
Fuzzy
frostiness of
Tauntaun.
that conversation was high, I think.
Yeah, Fuzzy Tauntaun.
Yeah.
Or Yub Nub from Olga's Cantina.
And we went back to Lothal. Shin's now hot on the tails of the map, hunting down. Effectively, they're looking for Ahsoka, but I guess they're now aware, because of the little spy droid, that Sabine has it. So Sabine's back in her radio tower, figuring out what the map is.
I mean, that was a great scene for little Easter eggs tying back to Rebels as well, with like Ezra's sort of scout trooper helmet, which had been painted, and there's some all sorts of great stuff in there. Keep your eyes peeled. keep your eyes peeled, people.
And again, I thought this was one of Hera's better scenes as well, where she kind of confronts Ahsoka and basically gives Ahsoka a smack around the head and tells her to sort yourself out and get on the same page with Sabine. And Sabine's busy working away and deciphering, and kind of cracks it, realises that the design on the sphere matches the design on the floor of the temple, so she kind of gets everything in order. And they kind of get a map that kind of tells them what galaxy and where to go and so on with Thrawn. And but all of a sudden, our baddies are here, Shin and their manga droid there, and they get into, which I thought was a very good lightsaber battle. And a lot of action. And it ends with Sabine getting a stab. Again, controversial on Star Wars socials, this stab. Should she have lived or should she have died?
Lived.
Yeah.
I know the upset because Qui-Gon got stabbed, but it was more central than, and probably severed his spine or something, and he's...
I take it along the lines of, if someone gets shot at, 9 out of 10 times they're going to die, but there's always going to be that one time when it misses everything vital.
Yeah.
And you can run with it. That's what happened here. And she's there, she's holding the wound. And that was the end of our first episode.
She's also a Mandalorian, so, nails.
That's true. And we got really beautiful end credits as well. And which is a proper map and everything sort of translates. So if you head over to Fantha Tracks, I can actually look it up, I think. Will it work? Maybe not. Here we go. You head over to Fantha Tracks. We've actually got like an episode guide up on the site, and you can read all about the guide for the episode 1, and it'll help you maybe decipher what's on that map as well, if you're so lucky. So check that out. There's a guide up there for episode 2 as well. That was a nice little plug. And Becca also making there, Shin could have ended it sooner, she was buying time. Kind of felt like that. It kind of felt like Mr. Naylor, ever so hopeful. There's hope for Han yet. But if you're Mr. Naylor, the sequel trilogy didn't happen, so there's always hope for Han. So straight on to episode 2, because like I don't think there was anyone that could watch episode 1 and then walked away and didn't tune in to episode 2 back to back. And again, we had a droid doing his job.
Yes.
Medical droids.
2-1B. Excellent.
If you had to own a droid, what would you have? Would you have a medical droid that could save you if you've been stabbed by a lightsaber? A translation droid like C-3PO, or an astromech droid?
Oh, I think I'd have to go for astromech droid because, I live in the middle of nowhere, so the chances of getting stabbed is pretty slim.
Yeah.
Sometimes some people in my vicinity I might need a translator for because the Doric can be quite hard to understand sometimes. And you could go and get my beers for me. You could open the beers for me. Get the little jets going. Fly off. What about you?
I'm like an astromech droid. Like its beeping would do my head in for a start. Plus, I think if you just buy a slightly better spaceship that's got like your nav computer built in, you don't need it, right? So defunct, get rid of it. It's like a TomTom. Most cars now have built-in navigation screens or whatever, so you can get rid of your TomTom. Don't need it anymore. Like translation droid. I'm just like British, so if you go abroad and they don't speak English, if you just say everything slightly louder, they understand. Right. So I just take that and bring that to the Star Wars galaxy. If you just, instead of getting a translation droid, just shout at Greedo, you'll understand eventually. So medical droid, definitely going to be medical droid. John Glover's just beat me though, because that is the best answer. Assassin droid. How did I not think of that? That's a shout and a half. Well done to John. John's winning now. Comment of the show. It's been high competition today. I think John's winning.
He wins Paul Naylor's kidney stone.
Mr. Newbold, Brian would love a droid to kick and throw rubbish in. Absolutely, yeah, definitely. That would be a good role. A mouse droid, because I don't know what their purpose is, other than to lash out at and kick. And it feels like the droid's like that too. But yeah, so 2-1B does his job very well. Sabine healing up nicely, but she's not fit enough to help in the continuing adventures. And things are progressing. The baddies have the sphere. They know where they're going next. And they're at a Night Sisters temple. And they're waiting on Morgan, because as soon as they do their magic, we're going to know where the Grand Admiral Thrawn is. And meanwhile, Ahsoka's trying to investigate what's happened to Sabine and where the map could now be. So she enters Sabine's house, and she kind of maybe gets an understanding of the situation Sabine's in a little bit here, because she sees a hologram of Ezra. So I think that kind of is a good kind of landmark to put in there to diffuse the obvious tensions between her and Sabine. There's a little bit of understanding of the position of each other. Sabine, meanwhile, she's keen to try and find out where the map's ended up, and so they've got one of the manga droids kind of heads, and they're trying to decipher where it may be going. And again, another scene where I kind of felt like Hera was a good character in this scene. It kind of worked well. Bizarrely, I'm saying this, and it makes no difference to the acting, but every scene that Hera was in where she was a hologram, I felt was better than when she was there in person. Although literally when they're doing that scene, I'm sure she was standing right there on set. But I don't know why. I don't know what it was, but it just kind of, it seemed like her best scenes seemed to be hologram scenes. I don't know why. It's weird. And we kind of had Morgan doing her Night Sister kind of magic-y kind of things with the sphere, and we kind of get this map generated in the night sky as to where Thrawn is, and they kind of get a location and a route to take.
It's very that last shot is very Eye of Sauron, isn't it? With the kind of the curved, and then it's almost like the Eye of Sauron above the.
Yeah. Thrawn in the animated series disappeared to the far regions of space with Ezra on the back of that giant flying whale things we saw in The Mandalorian. I think I'm right, and that's the general gist of the story.
Nargils.
Yeah.
Or the Nargil.
Are you excited to see Thrawn in live action?
Yeah, I mean, I loved the. I've not really read any of the more recent Thrawn books, but I did love the classic Heir to the Empire books back in the day. Purgils, not Nargils. Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Mark's a fact checker.
I obviously got Tolkien in my head to talk about Eye of Sauron and somehow confused two different things there. I've totally forgot what we were talking about.
Yeah, Thrawn, whether you're excited to see him back, because...
I'm excited, yeah. I liked the job that Lars Mikkelsen did in Rebels with the character, so I'll be interested to see him in live action. And you obviously... There's a shot of him with face on now, isn't there? That was in one of the trailers. It was shown at Celebration at the Ahsoka panel. But yeah, I think it'll be cool. I'm looking forward to seeing, what happens with the character as the show progresses.
I'm finding it a little bit difficult from my perspective with Thrawn, and the whole series is obviously going to be built up on this idea of trying to find him. So we're going to get maybe 5 or 6 episodes of trying to find him, maybe before we do find him. And to me, that's a difficult sell because he's always kind of just been there in the books and the comics and accessible. So it doesn't feel like he's missing and needing to be found to me. Yeah. So when you're doing a series where Thrawn's going to be in it, I kind of want him to be in it. And I kind of feel like I was teased enough about him already in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be the element of, can they keep me excited enough over the next 5 or 6 episodes to be excited to find Thrawn? That's going to be the tricky part for me, I think. But yeah, I don't know what I think of this whole map idea, because it feels very sequel trilogy, and almost a little bit rinse repeat in terms of storyline. But it kind of feels like it makes sense because you've got 2 people missing in an unknown area of space. It doesn't feel necessarily as much forced as bringing Palpatine back, but I think it's open to criticism of the fact it's going to be quite a similar storyline, I feel, where you're finding ancient magical force kind of elements in order to find a map to someone that's, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a bit of that, isn't there? Yeah.
Becca's making an interesting point here. She doesn't feel like Thrawn's a baddie. Thrawn's not a baddie. He's part of the democratically elected government that have been overthrown by rebels. But other than that, she also points out Morgan Elsbeth is a survivor of the Night Sisters, and Thrawn was aligned with those that perished our people, which is an interesting one. I'd actually be really excited to see the Night Sisters come sort of full force into this series. That would be interesting and different for me.
That'd be really cool. Yeah, totally. That'd be great.
But we then flirted back over to Corellia with Ahsoka, who's hunting down information that Sabine's uncovered as to where the manga droid's been as they're trying to track down the baddies of the show. And Hera meets Ahsoka on Corellia, while Sabine has to stay behind getting healed up, thanks to the medical droid, who looks like he's an NHS medical droid because he's like all battered and bruised and everything when I took the still of him. I'm like, come on, New Republic people, don't like look after your health service.
And look after your Shure Elvis microphones as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I kind of get a little bit of a runaround from the people in charge, and I was offended by this scene because I'm a big fan of the Empire. Poor guy gets killed just for shouting out that he loves the Empire. Another guy gets arrested because he's trading with the Empire. But surely, at this point in the timeline, you're post-Return of the Jedi, you formed a New Republic. The Imperial remnants are part of that New Republic, if you follow the books and the comics. So, like, surely you're allowed to say that you like them. And surely you're allowed to trade with them. So I didn't quite get this bit. It's a little bit like the people buying Donald Trump locked up T-shirts. Apparently $7 million worth sold within a couple of days.
Wow.
But yeah, I didn't understand why the guy got killed for shouting out "Long live the Empire." So thought that was a bit brutal government from the New Republic there. But I will never stop loving the Empire and singing their praises. But yeah, they found out very quickly, courtesy of a droid that didn't know when to keep its mouth shut. Hate droids. Anakin there on YouTube said he loves the droid out of them. Terrible behaviour. Protocol droid doesn't know when to keep its mouth shut. It's not very protocol-y. And they quickly realise that the hyperdrives are being stolen, supplied to this Imperial faction, and they go on the chase of it and then encounter Marok, who the guys have been commenting about already in the comments as to who he could be. Have you any inklings?
It's Sauron from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I've been reading all sorts of rumors this week about it. Some folks saying, "Oh, it's Ezra," and other people thinking it's like Starkiller from the Force Unleashed games, because I think Sam Witwer was mentioned in the credits at some point, and he doesn't actually say anything, so it's not Sam Witwer at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not thinking it's going to be anyone we're aware of already. I think it'll be a new character, to be honest. But
yeah, I'm interested from the concept that he's obviously an Inquisitor, but he's almost effectively serving Balon to some degree.
Yeah.
He's almost his superior. So you've almost got this kind of element where surely the Inquisitor would have been hunting him down at some point. So what's their story? What's their relationship? Is this an Inquisitor that's been smacked back down by Balon when he's tried to capture him or something? I don't know. It's again this unusual relationship where Balon still kind of presents himself as a Jedi, and Shin, his apprentice, has got the braid and everything, and it's just this another level of puzzle to their characters, and that's what's making them much more interesting to me. Where I'm maybe finding confusion from the characters that have come from animation. I'm sort of being saved by these baddies, in effect, that are quite fascinating to me. But
I've seen Paul's comment there. Could he be the first Knight of Ren? I've read that somewhere as well. Some people suggesting he might be a Knight of Ren, potentially.
But he seems to realise that he's there to perform a function, and that's allowed for the ship to allow. He's not self-absorbed. I've got to beat Ahsoka. I've got to capture Ahsoka, who would obviously be a prized asset if he was still in his Inquisitor role. But he knows he's got a bigger purpose here, because as soon as it's clear that the ship's away with the cargo, he kind of leaves the fight and goes running back to get picked up and effectively rescued by Shin to some degree. And Ahsoka's kind of left behind, and the hyperdrive's stolen and away. Mr. Newbill's also sharing an idea that a Knight of Ren is a good shout. They were already around. They were in War of the Bounty Hunters. A good point. And
I was very surprised at that scene when he was running for the ship, but he didn't do the old Inquisitor helicopter lightsaber. It was looking like that was going to happen
yeah,
at that point. I'm glad it didn't, but it was looking like that was going to be
yeah.
his means of escape.
Hera's in hot pursuit of the hyperdrive, and she's there with Chopper, who
In the
to me was
in,
the most irritating droid ever, and people love him. He was doing Hulkamania kind of Hulk Hogan kind of moves with his arms. I didn't understand. He was kind of like bulking up, and yeah, it was like it was just it was just like if you were to invent the worst possible droid, they've achieved it with Chopper. He's beeping at me. He's making stupid movements with his arms. But in fairness to him, he had a practical purpose. He had a tracker, and he launched it onto the hyperdrive so they could track the ship. So fair play to him. He actually carried out a duty that he was asked for. But
he's a good lad, and we get to see the Phantom.
Apparently, heavily popular.
Chopper, he's really popular. That's why I think that toy will win the Christmas toy of the year. I think.
Yeah, going to sell well. Mr. Newbold saying Chopper does look like he was kit bashed in Luke's carriage. I don't know if that's a euphemism or what. But yeah, Sabine's out of hospital. She goes back. Doesn't feed her cat this time. Poor cat's hungry. He's been locked in all for a few days while she's been in hospital. And she did this thing, and I don't know why, but it really irritated me. Where obviously she's a Mandalorian, and obviously she hasn't been wearing it for a while. I'm assuming that's a story from the cartoon. I don't know, but anyway, she did that whole thing where the Mandalorians sit and stare at their helmet for 10 minutes, and this is why I think that the Mandalorians aren't allowed to take their helmets off. It's because every time they do this, waste 10 minutes staring at the thing, and it's just like, I don't know. To me, it kind of lessened the character, bringing back the Mandalorian type, because we've had the Mandalorian on TV. It felt like too much a callback to that series, and I kind of felt like her character was better established without that connection. But I don't know.
That's just very Mando wears the armor most of the way through Star Wars Rebels, so I would have been very surprised if it hadn't made an appearance in the first couple episodes.
Yeah, but yeah, for me, that doesn't have the attachment to the characters that other people does. It didn't work, but we'll see. We'll see how it progresses. I hope we see her more out of the suit than we do in it. I don't want to see the sort of the Iron Man type scenes that we see in the Mandalorian. I don't want that connection to her. I kind of want her to be unique, kind of separate from that. And again, John's great comment. Just put her armor on to not get stabbed again. Fair shout. Unjustly, our poor fans of the Empire getting arrested and locked up. That's what happens when nobody voted for the New Republic. Self-imposed government, just locking up anyone that disagrees with them. Shocking. Mr. Newell pointing out she's a primarily Mando in Star Wars storytelling, way below Din Djarin, Fett, Yango, and Sabine. Yeah, that's probably a fair point. I've missed all that, but the timing and Luke for me, not knowing her backstory, just didn't sit. So I'll say mea culpa. I need to watch the animation. I can't get past that Yoda episode. It's like the first episode. That's horrendous.
Or Clone Wars.
Yeah, shocking. And there you go. That was our in full Mando garb. Film, actually throwing out a good comment there. It could be a future tie into the film, perhaps. Could lead to conflict over leadership of the Mandos with Bo-Katan. Good shout.
Good shout, Phil.
And something I did enjoy, I thought we could have had more of this, and it could have been used to explain more of the connections to the animation. Where Sabine kind of had her own little moment with her animated friends, who we've met or had explained so many of them, apart from Kanan and Zeb. Do you think Zeb's going to turn up? He was obviously in Mando, or an equivalent of Zeb was in Mando.
Yeah, I think it. I'd be very surprised if he didn't pop up at some point in the series. I think, obviously introducing him in Mando season 3 was a precursor to this. That he's going to pop up in here.
Yeah.
Freddie Prinze Jr., however, maybe not.
No, I think that one's long gone. And we did get a nice scene towards the end. Sabine, brutal haircut. With her light, did she use her lightsaber? I don't think she did. Exaggerating there. That would be a dangerous thing. If you own a lightsaber, don't use it at the back of your head.
Mandalorian knife. Mandalorian knife was used.
Mandalorian knife. That's very true. But they had a nice little scene here. But again, I'm puzzled because I was under the understanding Ahsoka was out of the Jedi Order, but she calls herself Master and she calls her Padawan, and
yeah,
I thought they were beyond that kind of point, but there we go. It's out there, and we flirted back towards our baddies to end the series, the end of the 2 episodes, and they're building a giant hyperspace ring. It looks like to transport themselves to the far off galaxy to meet Thrawn and whoever else might be there. And Morgan's overseeing that project, and all the rest of our bodies are kind of lined up supporting her. Interesting that Marok was also included in that scene, and he appeared, even if he was on a sideways character in a lot of the scenes, just hanging back there, which kind of makes me think that there is something significant surrounding him.
Yeah.
Because for a nicer, clearer shot, you would have eliminated him from that shot and just had the 2 grey Jedi. But yeah, I don't know. It could be just one of these things that gets speculated a lot and it comes to nothing.
Yeah, time will tell, I guess.
Mr. Newball suggesting Marok is the muscle like Vader in A New Hope. Never know. And Morgan overseeing everything to end out the episode 2. So were you happy with the 2 episodes?
I was very happy. Yeah, so very excited about them coming, and they didn't disappoint me. So can't wait for Wednesday.
Yeah. Any ideas what's coming next?
No, I was going to say, I think majority of the stuff we'd seen in the trailers beforehand was in the first 2 episodes, apart from the stuff with Ahsoka and Balin. I think everything else is pretty much in those trailers have been in those episodes. So who knows? Who knows what's coming next?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing more of Balin and Shin, and learning a little bit about their backstory. I'm interested to see where Ahsoka and Sabine go in terms of their relationship, because it's kind of gone from being frosty to a little bit complimentary, but is there still some angst in there as well that's going to explode? And we've kind of had teasers that Anakin and Obi-Wan may appear in this as well, so we've got that to look forward to in future episodes as well, and where and how that occurs.
Yeah, totally. It's going to be how many is it? 8 episodes of the season.
8 episodes, yeah. So
yeah. So 6 more to go. Obviously, we're going to get to see Thrawn at some point. It's going to be good. Yeah.
So it'll be Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning for the UK. I think
2 a.m.
So. Yep, 2 a.m. into Wednesday. So an extra day, 8 days from the previous episodes, but we shan't complain. We'll be looking forward to it. Yeah, John making a comment there that he enjoyed the 2 episodes, but similar stories to before. Find a map to find a person. I think that is a danger, and it's all going to depend on how much they focus on that now. Now that they've got the map, they just need to build the tech to get them to where they need to be. It kind of feels that hopefully they don't really go back to that kind of storyline in the next few episodes, I hope.
Anakin's quite right to point out Mon Mothma.
Mon Mothma, we haven't even sort of considered that element of the more sort of formal side to the New Republic. And Purgles as well.
Yeah.
I think I'm right in saying that we heard the Purgles when they were standing at the Night Sisters kind of location.
Oh.
I kind of thought that that's what that was. There was kind of like a sound. I could be wrong. Mr. Naylor shouting out for Admiral Akbar as well.
That would be cool.
Yep. They're on home one. Could easily pass them in the corridor.
Yeah.
Definitely. So yeah, I'm more excited for going forward than I was for episodes 1 and 2. I think that it's made me interested, and it's more not necessarily the animated characters, but the baddies have made me interested in the series, and I think that's a positive. I think if someone from my perspective that didn't know these characters is looking forward to the future episodes, that can only be a good thing, I think.
Absolutely. No, it's great way to kick off the show. So roll on Wednesday.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me on this show, Greg, as well. It's gone a lot longer than normal. It's the longest running GMT episode, but there's a lot to go through there, I think. And unsurprisingly, it surprised me. But yeah, I enjoyed that. It was good fun. Thank you, everyone, in the comments as well, for all your thoughts. Great to have your feelings as well. I hope we'll see you all for future episodes as well, and we can kind of watch along this series and see who was right, who was wrong, and see what happens to Ahsoka, Sabine, and the Rebels crew. Are they all going to survive? I've got the expectation for at least one of them to die in this series. And
yeah, you've got to wonder with Ahsoka, is she when's she going to die? It's going to be in the Filoni movie when that comes out, because, you expect, you hear her voice at the end of Rise of Skywalker, so at that point, is she a Force ghost, or is she still alive at that point? Or, it's all that kind of, lots more stories of Ahsoka to come.
Yeah. Okay, great. And we'll end the show at that. Thanks, Greg, and thank you, everybody. We'll see you all next Sunday.
Pleasure. Take care, sir.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FanthaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at Fantha Tracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow Fantha Tracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.